Coming up on tonight's UAP News Show.
Luna's big reveal. Are UFO secrets finally coming out?
Politicians clap back at Trump's bunk drone report.
Follow the money. The Ken Klippenstein payoff scandal.
Marco Rubio and the UFO vault. What's next for UAP data collection?
Outer space meets inner space. The Psionics virtual summit.
And The Consciousness Connection, the game-changing documentary you need to see. Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of UAP Society's weekly UAP News Show. I am stoked to get started, so without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Greetings, cosmic enthusiast. It's Justin here. Let's dive right in.
Up first, Luna's big reveal. Are UFO secrets finally coming out? Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has teased a major announcement that, quote, will impact the entire nation, end quote. And speculation's running wild. Could this be the long-awaited disclosure of UFO secrets? A complete government overhaul? The declassification of hidden truths buried for decades? With whispers of a 24/7 declassification office, we might be on the verge of unprecedented transparency revolution. And here's the kicker. This could go beyond UFOs. It might include JFK, RFK, MLK assassination files, 9/11 secrets, and potentially mind-blowing revelations about the true nature of reality.
A tweet from Karina Capabianca says, Rep. Luna says she's making an announcement at a press conference tomorrow that will impact the entire nation. I asked her for a hint last week. Here's what she told me.
One of the biggest things that I'm constantly hearing from people, and it's not just me, but I think it's been generations of congressmen, is that there was a lack of transparency in the federal government. And I think when you have that, it's actually dangerous because that's where, conspiracy theories will form. That's where people will then lose, I think, sight and hope for their future, their nation, and then their government. And so in an effort to combat that, I have been pushing, and I'm joined now by my colleagues and have been entrusted by the Speaker of the House, by the Chairman of Oversight, and hopefully the White House to be aiding in transparency for this country. So that's your hint.
In this next clip from Pavel over at Psychoactivo Podcast, we will hear more from Luna herself and hear some ideas about what this big announcement could be all about.
On the Benny Show, Benny Johnson spoke to Congresswoman Luna, and they gave a few hints on what this could be about. Here's Congresswoman Luna with Benny Johnson talking about this upcoming event. Here it is.
Point. Yeah. Okay, so how do you regain trust? Something that is near and dear to your heart, because you're young, and because you're a young mother and you're raising children. You want. Presumably, you want to trust your government. You want to trust federal law enforcement. And I assume this has something to do with your massive announcement that you teased earlier in the week, where you said, I'm going to do something that will change the face of the American government forever. Here's the exact language of your post that went thermonuclear. I have an announcement next week that will impact the entire nation. Press conference to be announced soon. Everyone's wondering if it's aliens, but maybe it goes even deeper than that. Can you tell us?
I think it's bigger than that. I think, without getting too much into the details, and the date will be posted soon. You'll find that date for the press conference. I'd actually encourage everyone to tune in, and we're going to be opening it up, if we can, to some independent journalists as well. But I think that for far too long, people have been lied to by their government, and I think the way that you regain trust and you really help restore the nation, and I think bring back not just, I think, hope, but also, and remember, hope is contagious, but you really help it to secure it for future generations. I think that you have to have a fully transparent government. And so I won't get too much more into the details, but we're going to be doing something really big. So I am happy that I was entrusted with this, and I'm going to be doing some good stuff with some incredible people, and I'll leave it at that.
Wow. Okay. So the obvious follow-up question there is, if you're talking about transparency with the American people into their government, Kash Patel on this program months ago saying it's time for a government declassification office. Is it going to be something like that, where we'll be able to actually not have any more state secrets, something like that?
I will wait till the press conference, but what I will say is that, the Senate has a job to do. They would do right by the American people and do right by, I think, themselves if they don't block the confirmations of RFK, Tulsi, and Kash Patel.
Yeah, so what I can tell you guys about that is that this coincides with the potential and possible release of the JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files. The thing is, I think that this hint has to do potentially with a new declassification office. Back in 2024, there was the Public Interest Declassification Board. It was led by Georgetown alumni Mary DeRosa, who resigned last year in 2024. And when President Joe Biden was still in office, he did not hire a replacement for her. So right now, there hasn't been a chairwoman or chairman of this Public Interest Declassification Board. And I think that it's possible Congresswoman Luna could be that next person to be at the top of this. And she's also been hyping Elon Musk quite a bit. So I wouldn't be surprised if she wanted some help from him. But I have another clip that I got to share with you guys of potential and more than likely FBI Director Kash Patel, who was on Sean Ryan last year. And he floated an idea that I think could also be tied to this. So here's Kash Patel on Sean Ryan, a 24/7 declassification office. I don't know if that's ever been done before, because the problem with classification in the US is arguably one of the most concerning ones, because overclassification has been one of the issues that the US has had to fight for decades now. So there needs to be more oversight and more control over the classification of stuff. And if this happens, of course, it's tied to UFOs. The reason Luna said it's more important than UFOs is because if it is this, it doesn't just have to do with UFOs. It has to do with everything. So we still don't know if this will happen, but let me tell you what the Public Interest Declassification Board is supposed to do. What is supposed to happen with this board is that they advise the president and other national security officials on declassifying records. They meet monthly to recommend declassification. This can change because if they take Kash Patel's advice, this would be a 24/7 endeavor. So it's not going to be just Luna. She's probably going to have a large staff under her control. So that's encouraging. And then this office also, they give the president the final decision on whether to declassify the records or leave them as such. But let's see what happens. If it's not a declassification office, what could Congresswoman Luna be talking about? Because I even saw James Fox, the documentarian, hyping up Luna's tweet. So maybe he knows something too, and it does have to do with this.
I think that's big news. I don't know about you, but I think this is very big news. I think the government has had an overclassification issue for decades.
Yeah.
Where they classify the simplest little things just because they don't want, or let's say they classify something that can make them look bad. You know, there's no reason that that piece of information needs to be classified other than the fact that it's going to make somebody look bad.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's that's absurd to me. It's just
Right.
We have this overclassification issue, and I think this will definitely go towards government transparency. I think this is going to be a committee task force, so not an office of its in and of itself, just a subcommittee task force.
Okay.
But I really believe that this could benefit everybody.
Very interesting. And as you said that, our lights spontaneously on their own just got brighter. So I'm going to take that as confirmation from the universe, baby. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Okay, so that video that we just showed from Psychoactivo podcast, shout out Pavel, was from like a few days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. So since then, like literally 5 seconds before we were about to start recording this episode, these tweets came out. So a tweet from Anna Paulina Luna herself says, "My press conference is confirmed for Tuesday at 3 p.m. I will be joined by Chairman James Comer of GOP Oversight." And then Christopher Sharp over from Liberation Times concurs by saying, "New from Oversight Committee. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Chairman James Comer and Representative Anna Paulina Luna will hold a press conference on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to announce the creation of a new Oversight Committee task force of national interest." So forgive me, I don't know if you know, but I don't know. What's the difference between like a 24/7 declassification office and a new Oversight Committee task force of national interest? Is that the same thing? Are they two separate things? Are they kind of the same thing?
Things.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So the speculation was maybe a little bit wrong, but this information, like I said, it just came out like seconds before we started recording this new show. So I guess now we know that we're going to, I don't know. And by the way, why would they announce it if they're trying to like keep it a little secret and like not tell anybody what's going on until it happens, but then they like announce what's happening? Kind of like takes the, you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
no, they're trying to drum up interest.
Okay. Well, there's going to be a lot of people tuning into that probably.
There's probably some name that they have selected for this task force that they haven't come out with yet. You know, that's
I wonder what the name of it is going to be. And another thing that keeps coming to mind, because we just watched the Super Bowl and there was a lot of symbolism in the halftime show. We had like a whole conversation about the Kendrick Lamar thing. But anyways, well, that's a really hard digression. Sorry. I'm wondering what the symbol is going to be for this task force, because you know there's always like little things in there that you could pick up on and go, oh, that's the symbol for that. That symbol means this. So so I'm curious to see what they choose as their image of representation.
So talking about symbols, the one that comes to mind is the Space Force. One of their patches is the Sphinx.
Mm-hmm. Looking up at
a star.
I just saw that floating around the other day. It's so funny you mentioned that.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
That's so funny. Okay, so big announcements, and I'm not even sure, to be honest with you guys, what time this episode is going to air. I'm going to try to get it out as soon as possible. I don't know if it's going to be before or after this announcement from Rep Luna, but either way, wanted to mention it. Glad we're talking about it. And hey, we're here for transparency. That's what we need. We need more of transparency, less of confidentiality and classification, and let's all get on the same page.
Well, let me turn up the volume.
Day for transparency in America, because today I'm proud to announce the creation of the Task Force on the Declassification of Federal Secrets. This task force will be a part of the House Oversight Committee and led by the very talented and persistent Congresswoman from Florida, Anna Paulina Luna. During her time on the Oversight Committee, Representative Luna is a sledgehammer against government secrecy. She is committed to throwing open the windows for the American people to allow the sunlight of truth shine on the federal government. I can think of no better person in Congress to lead this task force than Representative Luna. Last month, President Trump signed an executive order to begin the process to declassify information on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and MLK. This task force serves to build on President Trump's actions. For far too long, the American people have had reasonable questions of what their government, which they fund every day, keeps hidden about certain issues. And for far too long, the federal government has not answered these questions. This creates distrust in our institutions. That ends today. The voters of this nation delivered a historic mandate to President Trump on November 5th. The keystone of that mandate was demanding increased transparency of their government and elected leaders. And the mandate of this task force is to acquire that transparency. We will open this up for questions from the media, but first I'd like to hand it over to my esteemed colleague and chairman of the new task force, Congresswoman Luna, for her remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Comer. When our founding fathers stood against tyranny, they did not merely oppose taxes. They defended the sacred idea of individual sovereignty. They declared that no government, agency, or title could infringe upon the freedoms of speech, religion, thought, and the pursuit of truth. For too long, the American spirit has been dimmed by a veil of secrecy, by a government that has grown too comfortable in the shadows, denying us the transparency we deserve. But today, we stand at the dawn of a new era where the light of truth begins to shine through. A few weeks ago, President Donald Trump made a historic announcement. With the stroke of a pen, he committed to declassifying the files concerning the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Robert F. Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a decision not just monumental, but pivotal. It is with profound honor that I have been entrusted by Speaker Mike Johnson and Chairman James Comer to lead the House Oversight Task Force on Declassification of Federal Secrets. Together with the help of the White House, our intelligence allies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, we will be conducting investigations into the following: the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Dr. Martin Luther King, unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UAPs, unidentified submerged objects, also known as USOs, the Epstein client list, the origins of COVID-19, and the 9/11 files. This task force will be a beacon of bipartisanship. On the Republican side, Representatives Burchett, Boebert, Burleson, Crane, Gill, and Mace will be joining me, although I'd like to note that I'm expanding this to the entire governing body and will be allowing certain members to waive on. Our first hearing is set for March. The date will be announced soon, and we've already initiated close to a dozen communications with various agencies, to include Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice and the Secretary of State. This will no longer be a task force that makes bold promises only to fade into irrelevance or send strongly worded letters. This will be a relentless pursuit of truth and transparency, and we will not stop until the American people have the answers they deserve. We will cut through the bureaucracy, challenge the stonewalling, and ensure that the American people finally get the truth that they have been denied for too long. If we are to endure and thrive as a nation, we must restore trust through transparency. The American people must be trusted to think for themselves, to form their own judgments from the truth that they are entitled to know. We've been treated like children for too long and kept in the dark by those we elected to serve us. It is my solemn duty to begin mending this trust, to form a new relationship between the government and the governed. Let us embark on this journey together towards a government that does not serve, but one that enlightens. That does not just serve, but one that enlightens. Trust through transparency, that begins now. Without further ado, we'd like to open it up for questions, as I'm sure many of you have those. Hands up.
Thank you, Nancy. Obviously, your goals are aligned with the administration's on the declassification of Martin Luther King and the Kennedys. How would you handle if you end up, whether it's President Trump or Attorney General Bondi or P&I Gabbard, if they disagree with what you're looking to declassify on a certain topic, whether it's UAPs or 9/11 or something like that? How would you handle if there's some stuff that they don't necessarily want?
Well, certainly, I think that they'd be supportive, being that they're advocating for this. But also, I want to remind the American people that this is bipartisan. There's also Democrats that are looking into answering these very questions. But certainly, we would share that information with the American people. This is about transparency. And I think, again, as I stated, for far too long, there's been a massive push to keep the American people in the dark, and that ends today. Chairman?
The task force does not have subpoena power. I do. The task force is going to be subsidiary of the full oversight committee. So if we have to issue one, Congresswoman Luna, we'll discuss it and we'll take appropriate action.
But in full transparency, we have a great working relationship, as I stated earlier, with the White House, with the DOJ, with the Secretary of Defense, and the Secretary of State. The incoming FBI director, I think, will be very supportive. And we've also been told that the CIA director is very supportive. To put it in perspective, I think that this issue transcends not just one administration, but multiple administrations. And it hasn't been until now that we've been able to get people actually in positions of power that will push for transparency. Now, if I find that different entities in the various intelligence agencies are stonewalling us, I'm going to make that known to the American people. But as of right now, we are cautiously optimistic.
What's your priority list? Because Epstein 9/11?
Our first investigation will be announced, but it's going to be covering on a thorough investigation into the John F. Kennedy assassination. And I can tell you, based on what I've been seeing so far, the initial hearing that was actually held here in Congress was actually faulty in the single bullet theory. I believe that there were 2 shooters, and we should be finding more information as we are able to gain access into the SCIF. Hopefully,
They asked her what her priority was.
Thank you for doing this. Have you identified the Democrats who will sit on the task force? And could you talk a little bit more about the role of Democrats in this?
Yeah, so again, this is a bipartisan commission. Remember, JFK
The role of
was a
Democrats, that's what they
Democrat.
asked.
RFK was a Democrat, and I'm sure that I think the entire conference has a question on what actually happened with Dr. Martin Luther King, but also UAPs. You guys know that that was the biggest bipartisan bicameral hearing that we've ever had, I think, in congressional history. I do not know who their members are yet. They've noticed it, but they're taking this very seriously. This is not a conspiracy theory investigating committee. We're actually looking to present truth to the American people. And it's in my opinion that no one person elected to office is more important or more qualified to look at the information that they've been hiding from us. And so we look to push for that transparency.
What sort of witnesses will you expect to have at your hearings? I know you said the first one's in March. That be department heads, former employees of various agencies.
Would you like to jump in?
So there's going to be a hearing in March. They're asking what witnesses they're going to have.
The JFK investigation. I'm looking at to actually bring in some of the attending physicians at the initial assassination, and then also people that had been on the various commissions looking into, like the Warren Commission, looking into the initial assassinations. There's been conflicting evidence, and I think that even the FBI at the time reported some anomalies in the initial autopsy at Bethesda, Maryland. All of those, though, seem to have been rinsed and repeated in the media to push a certain narrative that we don't agree with. And so I think that in order to put to bed some of the theories that have been out there on John F. Kennedy, we have to know the full truth, and the full truth starts with transparency. And that's why these files is so important for the American people to read for themselves.
With this task force, what are you hoping to uncover as far as UAPs that you have not already heard from other UAPs?
The biggest
All right, this is a
information
UAP question right here.
with UAPs is the amount of stonewalling, stovepiping, and also it seems that there is this push to gaslight the American people into looking at the evidence and then not fully believing it. I think for us, if we're writing the budget, for example, into the Pentagon, if we're writing the budget overall for whatever programs might be out there, why is it that members of Congress who are given a top secret security clearance are being denied access? That's not a free and true government. And so for us, especially being that we have now a Secretary of State who's actually open to declassification and Marco Rubio, we're hoping to present that information and at least acknowledge it from a government perspective that we are not alone, but also let's see what the evidence is.
Thank you. Have you already been in contact with and started to send requests to these different agencies and federal departments for this information?
Yes, in fact, letters went out this morning, not just on RFK, JFK, and MLK, but on everything that I had listed above to include UAPs, Epstein, and 9/11 and COVID, to the State Department, Department of Defense, CIA, and then also we'll be sending some to the FBI, and letters have also gone out to the NSA.
How is this going to be different than the House Select Committee on Assassinations, which did investigate both the John F. Kennedy assassination?
I can't hear the question.
What's interesting on that specific committee is what, to my understanding, when they actually brought in expert witnesses, they weren't actually people that were in attendance to the initial autopsy at Bethesda. But also, this is a bigger committee than just the JFK assassinations. We're also expanding into Epstein, COVID origins, 9/11s, and then UAPs and USOs. And so before, where we initially had some of these hearings, this is going to be an encompassing committee that's going to work directly with the White House on information that they're declassifying. Yeah.
There's the Warren Commission, but also the Select.
Correct. There's actually 3 different government investigations into
I can't hear the
JFK
questions.
assassination. But again, this committee is expanding not just there, but outwards into other fields. And again, we're working directly with the White House. In previous investigations, they didn't have access to the information that we are going to have access to. And so that's a big deal, especially if you're looking at what truly happened with JFK.
Are you doing any top secret clearance?
I already have a top secret clearance. All members of Congress have a TSCI. The question is do we get SAP access, of which Chairman Comer has been very supportive, and we'll be getting SAP access as well. Okay, 2 more, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Obviously, some of the questions on some of these topics, whether it's Jeffrey Epstein or COVID-19, the the questions are obvious. What specifically, though, are the questions you're looking to get answered with regards to September 11th?
We just want the truth. How much did the CIA know in advance? But also remember, when you have only certain information that's shared with the American people, that's when conspiracy theories happen. And it's in my opinion that conspiracy theories can be detrimental. It doesn't mean that in the last couple of months we haven't been right on a few things. But what I will say is I think that we deserve to give this information to the American people. I don't agree with the stonewalling that's occurred. And also, how do we prevent things like it from happening in the future? And we have to know the full picture, and the American people deserve to know that as well.
They asked her about 9/11.
Expect any collaboration with the Department of Government Efficiency?
I don't know what information Doge would have, but I would encourage them if they have anything on JFK, Epstein, or anything in between that they bring it to our office immediately. All right, one last question, then we're going to wrap it up. News Nation, let's go.
Can I ask you about your relationship with whistleblowers? Is it going to be the normal process that oversight typically does, or would this be? Are you going to create a separate avenue for the task force?
I mean, we're all about the normal
Whistleblowers.
process, but look, if you have information and it's credible, we've always approached it in that I'd like to be the person that does the interviews for it, mainly because, especially with stuff like this, we want to make sure that there's, not bad actors that are pushing false information to create a narrative that's simply not there. And so, every whistleblower that does come forward, as of right now, there's people that have been publicly out there, for example, on the JFK stuff, that were actually present in the room at the operating room where he was actually brought to right after the shooting. So we hope to bring those people in to testify. And again, these hearings will be open to the public. I am also expanding this to the entire conference. So if someone's going to take this seriously and look at it through an investigative lens and get answers for the American people, they are welcome to ask questions of the witnesses, and you guys will all receive notice of that.
And we'll work with anyone who currently works with the federal government that wants to declare whistleblower status and receive whistleblower protection, if that's what they're interested in doing. And I don't think they're going to face the type of retaliation that the previous administration gave whistleblowers, particularly the IRS whistleblowers that blew the whistle on the cover up of the Biden family.
And I'd also like to close with this. If you are an independent investigator, we are being told that the FBI has now located thousands of pages of documents that they lost before, specifically relating to JFK. We are going to get through as much as we can. We have a great team of attorneys. We have a great team of investigators looking into this, but it doesn't mean that we won't accept help from the public. And so we will be setting up a place for collection for people to present information. But again, this is about transparency. The government works for us. There have been people, I think, in power for too long that try to silo us and keep us in the dark, but that stops today. You're seeing that same message come out of the White House, out of the CIA, the FBI, and every other agency in between. So we are very happy to have the support of all of those individuals, happy to have the support of Chairman Comer and Speaker Johnson. And if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Oversight Comms, and we'd be happy to answer those at that time. Thank you, guys.
All right, so are we going to finally witness the crumbling of decades worth of government secrecy, or is this just another distraction? Would a new oversight committee task force be a game changer for the truth movement? Drop a comment down below and let us know.
Next up, politicians clap back at Trump's bunk drone report. All right, y'all, it's time for another update on the drone flap. Because, let's be real, the saga just keeps getting wilder.
It's like the Energizer Bunny. It just keeps going and going and going.
Right.
Still going. Long-lasting Energizer batteries. Keep going and going and go.
Remember when Trump promised a full drone report on day one? And then, instead of dropping receipts, we got a half-baked Susie look into it response? Then they followed up with the statement saying that the drones were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and for various other reasons. Yeah, well, Washington isn't letting him off that easy. Even some politicians aren't buying the White House's latest claim that the FAA knows exactly what these drones are. So now politicians on both sides of the aisle are starting to press the issue. Could this be the moment when pressure finally cracks open the truth? Or is this just another runaround? Today, we're diving into the reactions from DC lawmakers who are calling BS on Trump's drone disclosure.
A tweet from Ask a Poll UAP says, even some Republicans aren't buying the Trump's White House claims the FAA knows what the drones are. I asked Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, are they ours? A veteran GOP member of Congress told Matt Laszlo on Background at the Capitol earlier. He said, no, they are not us. This isn't even the news we promised. Continuing on in another tweet, says breaking news, exclusive, Rep. Chris Smith on drone swarms. Quote, one went down, we're told, over Langley, end quote.
Wow.
Take a listen to that now.
And now, here's our latest Ask a Poll exclusive from your U.S. Capitol.
Curious your thoughts on what the White House said about the drones over New Jersey, but the FAA
Well, I'm checking further.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I met with a lot of situations, and they
I always talk about that member of the Coast Guard.
That's the one.
That 47-foot boat.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
100 feet behind the boat, and they were large. They weren't like little Walmart drones.
12 to 30.
12 to 30. Oh, you got it. You got it. So, and
they don't know that technology.
As you know, in Kirby said they were jets flying into JFK. And I said, what? So, no, we're asking further questions.
Yeah. Is the delegation going to get another briefing, maybe?
I doubt it.
Maybe hearings?
I think hearings are really needed.
Yeah.
DOD and Homeland Security.
Yeah.
So
FAA, or are they not?
Yeah, sure.
needed?
But I don't know if FAA. Where's the military? Homeland. This is U.S. airspace. It's not just over the installations.
Yeah.
And that was the disappointment. With all the respect for the previous administration, because the guidance to them was, if it's over your perimeter, you can do something. Then we had it over their perimeter. At Earl, we had two.
Yeah.
Right over the perimeter. One landed, they rushed over, and they had already taken off again. It's like, are you kidding me? It's a munitions depot.
In the Senate, besides Langley, where Kane
and Langley was huge.
But then there's Luke Air Force Base.
That's right.
Shut down. Mark Kelly's been bringing that.
These aren't small issues, and I chair the China Commission, 106 hearings, years to date. I'm working all the time. They are so far ahead of us on drones.
Yeah.
So if they can make it go stealth as soon as we get near them, that doesn't sound like Walmart again. That sounds like, or even Iran. That sounds more like China. So
right now, it doesn't seem like we're prepared.
We're not prepared. That's why I'm asking all these questions. And I have a bill that would empower local law enforcement. Matter of fact, the idea came from, where is he? From Albany Lee. My sheriff.
One guy over there.
Yeah, the sheriff of Monmouth County, Sean Golden. Yeah. So he and two sheriffs, he and from Ocean, they've been absolutely indefatigable in tracking these things and doing work. But they don't have all the tools. So this sheriff suggests we do a bill that gives the power with the training to local law enforcement. Not everybody, just a select group, state police and others, so that if this happens, DOD was so reluctant to do a thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't get anybody in DOD, and Kirby would say nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Off the record?
Yeah.
Now, what are they doing for it? And in New Jersey, they don't know this grid, this infrastructure is critical, military bases. No, and they weren't flying over, the beach, so to speak, except to get from here to there.
Yeah.
So it just begs the question. The reasonable man or woman would say, we think there's something very serious here. Let's get to them. I kept saying, shoot one down. In a place where there's nobody in them.
Senator Gillibrand has a bill that would allow
to shoot them down
only over military bases.
Well, they already have
Langley.
that. They already have that.
See, but I think they're confused on that because the Pentagon hasn't.
But they just haven't given the guidance, because I talked to my two base commanders and they said we were waiting instructions, but we do have pretty much a standing idea. If the defense perimeter is breached, they can...
Good.
Yeah, but you're not doing it.
I know.
That was my point.
Have you asked to see one? Or they just haven't shot any down?
As far as we know, zero. One went down, we were told, in Langley, near Langley, but it crashed so badly. It's like, come on. We don't have the capability to nab one of these things. I think we do.
Right. Yeah.
Or if we don't, how far advanced are they from us?
Right.
They're seeing this stuff.
Yeah.
And they have everything for the fleet right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's dangerous.
Right.
It's like Picatinny just to the north, which is the Army side.
Unsettling.
Munitions depot.
Yeah, right. I think she needs you. Good to see you, sir.
So Chris Smith is saying that one of these drones came down over Langley. And then he also made that comment about how one landed and then before they could get to it took back off again.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Me either.
I was like, say what?
Huh.
Oh wow, okay.
And then he said that the one that crashed near Langley, I guess,
and that it was so badly
mangled that they
couldn't do anything with it or identify.
Yeah.
That's all of this sounds like such a big, huge pile of steaming dookie.
That is one big pile of shit.
It really does. Like I'm picturing, picture the movie Jurassic Park when they're by that sick Tyrannosaurus Rex and there's that huge pile of steaming poop and they have to like, stick their arms in it to figure out why the Triceratops is sick and they find the berries. Anyway, another hard digression. This is my ADHD brain, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, let's keep going. So Ask a Poll also came through with a clip from Senator Tim Kaine, who also had something to say in response to this issue. Let's look at that now.
And now, here's our latest Ask a Poll exclusive from your U.S. Capitol.
Yes, curious what you thought of what the White House said about the drones over New Jersey yesterday. I didn't see it. They said FAA told them it was all FAA knew everything that was in the air there.
No, that's I don't know about Jersey. That's definitely not the case with respect to the Virginia situation at Langley. Neither the FAA nor the military has given us a sufficient answer, and I don't think they have an answer that they're not giving us. I just don't think they have one. Yeah. But again, the Jersey one, I'm not so sure about.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Thank you.
So he just brought up another good point that we mentioned and touched on last week. It's like, do they really know what's going on and they're just lying to us, or do they just
not have an answer,
not know what's going on and they're telling us the truth? I'm not even sure which one would be worse. I mean,
yeah, me either.
The idea that they maybe not, like don't know what it is. That's
both situations are horrible. For one, I think we should definitely know what's in our airspace, and giving all the revelations that Christopher Mellon has given us over the years. We have the sensor systems to see what is in our airspace.
Yeah.
And for them not to have an answer, I think somebody's lying.
I really think they know exactly what's going on. I think they know. I think it's option A. I think they know exactly what's going on. They just don't want to tell us, so they're playing dumb. Like that's the vibe I'm getting. It's like I find it very hard to believe that they don't know what's going on. That's like the easiest. I don't know. It's like the easiest answer to say I don't know. Right. Give me a break.
To me. And to be honest, I don't think that they're even telling Trump the truth.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I feel like
I think they're just giving him a bullshit answer, and he's
cover story.
Right.
Cover story. Yep.
Meanwhile, back in the back cave.
Right. Well, the politicians aren't buying it. We're not buying it.
No.
I hope Trump isn't buying it, but I don't know what he's thinking. I don't even know if he knows what he's thinking.
And I think it's a mix of all the things that people have been reporting. I think it could be a mix of legitimate UAP mixed in with maybe drones actually from China or another country, mixed in with hobbyist drones. What
a strange situation for all this to be manifesting at the same time, though.
It is that,
what are we calling this? The drone flap? This is just such like a very strange course of events that's been going on since the end of November.
Yeah.
So the end of November, all of December, all of January, and here we are practically midway through February, and we're still talking about this.
Even before then, this has been going on for years.
Well,
and there's been reports of drone incursions at other military bases.
Oh, yes, sure.
Well before last November, and I think it just kind of blew up because so many people started paying attention and so many people started seeing things.
Well, this is one of those circumstances where, like, they're trying to say, oh, nothing to see here, move along, but people are actually digging their feet in the ground and being like, no, wait a minute, what are you talking about? We've been having drones over our houses in Jersey for, months now, and people, I have a feeling, are, not going to let this go. I hope that there's not, some other big distraction that takes everybody's attention off of this, but we should not let things like this go. We shouldn't just let them pacify us with they were all ours and they were doing various research.
They don't want to cause a panic. They don't want.
Okay, but that's
the
how we got
population to
here
panic.
to 2025 with the secrecy from 1947
Right.
and the nuclear
Right.
stuff still taking place today. So,
Yeah.
like, poo away with all of that. We need some
Right.
answers. We need more transparency.
Yes, which goes back to the new
First story we just talked
first
about.
story we talked
Exactly.
about. Right.
Don't you love how stuff like that comes together?
Uh-huh.
So, why did Trump's team put out such a weak report? Did they think we're just going to like take that and move on and forget about this whole thing or what? I don't know. What do you think these drones are? Foreign tech, advanced US programs, or something even stranger? Sound off in the comments below and let us know. Up next, follow the money. The Ken Klippenstein payoff scandal. All right, fam, get your glass of water ready because this next update is a spicy one. Remember last year when UFO whistleblower David Grush sued the Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman and an unnamed sheriff's office employee for illegally leaking his personal medical records just days after he testified to Congress? And don't forget at that time, The Intercept's Ken Klippenstein was the one who filed that suspiciously timed FOIA request that led to Grush's personal info being dumped into the public sphere online. In case you forgot, let's take a look at this next clip to get you caught up to speed. Okay, this article called UFO Whistleblower Sues Sheriff's Office Over Records Release by Evan Goodnow on July 26, 2024. This article starts off by saying, a retired Air Force officer who testified before Congress that the U.S. government was involved for decades in a secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering program involving UFOs is suing, I'm not sure how to say that, but Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman and an unidentified sheriff's office employee for releasing personal information about him. The plaintiff, retired Major David C. Grush, says in a $2.5 million lawsuit filed July 16th in Loudoun Circuit Court that a sheriff's office employee improperly released, quote, highly sensitive personal information, end quote, about his medical history in response to a Freedom of Information Act request on July 30th, 2023. Ken Klippenstein, then a reporter for The Intercept, filed the record request 4 days after Grush testified before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Grush told the committee that several current and former members of the intelligence community and military provided him with photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony about the program, according to the transcripts of his remarks. Grush said that he filed a whistleblower complaint with the U.S. Office of the Intelligence Community Inspector General and suffered retaliation for his actions. The lawsuit says the article caused Grush to, quote, suffer personally and professionally, end quote. And there you have it, folks. So, Ken Klippenstein, what a freaking creep, huh?
Yeah.
To give you some more context to this story and to remind you all of why this even started and by whom, let's check out this next clip from Vetted.
Ken Klippenstein is the reporter, right? That this is all about, basically, who requested these records. Now, to be clear, David Grush is not suing Ken Klippenstein. Ken Klippenstein made a request. The sheriff's office gave Ken Klippenstein the request. David Grush is suing the sheriff's office for allowing that, right? So these are a couple clips of Ken Klippenstein talking about this article after it came out and some of the backlash. Okay, he went on a show called Breaking Points.
Accusations are flying as journalist Ken Klippenstein has published a new report for The Intercept saying UFO whistleblower Dave Grush, who recently testified before the House Oversight Committee, was at one point referred to a mental health institution following 2 911 calls from his wife in what Grush says is a PTSD-related alcoholic incident. Grush and his associates initially accused the intelligence community of leaking non-public health records to Klippenstein, who has since revealed he in fact retained access to this information by Freedom of Information Act requests. Resulting drama's got both sides. They're accusing the other of not telling the truth to the public about the situation. So we've got Ken Klippenstein himself in the studio now. Join us defending his story. It's good to see you, Ken. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming in, Ken.
Great to be back with you guys. All right, Ken.
So let's get to the next clip. This is more just, should Ken Klippenstein have done this? And what was the purpose behind it, right? Why would he make this article and share this about David Grush 4 days after he testifies? How did he even know to go to that sheriff's office and ask for it?
That's what I want to know.
Right. Well, in this interview, he claims that he was told by some Pentagon insiders, sources of his, where to go look. I got to admit, that's suspicious.
Super
and
sus.
Because of Ken Klippenstein's reporting, right, based off those records, David Grush is saying he financially suffered personally, right? So he's asking for $2.5 million. You know, did David Grush suffer that much? Did he have deals that he lost because of it? There may be some things behind the scenes we don't know. But what is clear is Ken Klippenstein as a reporter, I have to admit, this is kind of, it's low blow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Very
low blow,
low blow.
and I still to this day don't see the point of it.
I'm just trying to understand, like, what is the value of this information being put forward? And to be clear, you didn't do anything wrong. You're doing your job. We get crazy tips from people all the time here. So I have no issue with the Freedom of Information Act, even if you did report it, even if you did get a tip from the intel community. I guess it comes down to like the framing and the substance of like, what are we supposed to do with this information?
Well, I included in the story an example of the dozens of White House staffers who had their clearances revoked for smoking weed, including in states where it was legal.
Right.
What does that
Places where
even
it's
have to
legal.
do with
So
anything?
like this is part of the clearance process. And so again, this whole focus on PTSD, and if it makes him not credible, that was never something I said. That was a focus that he made trying to get ahead of the story in the statement that he put out. My interest was always the alcoholism. And I mean, I guess I feel as though there's some kind of grandstanding around this stuff, because the reality is if you're going to say, get a medical procedure, go see a surgeon, you find out he's an alcoholic, that's probably going to factor in your deciding somewhat, right?
Right. Well, I mean, is he an active alcoholic? Do you know that?
We know that from the reports his wife said he was.
Okay. In
That's not true.
2018.
Yes.
But we don't know anything.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but we
He's
don't
an
know anything
alcoholic. Sagar rebuts. Is he an active alcoholic? Is that right now? Right. Well, according to that's what the reports say. That's in 2018. Yeah. So we don't know anything now. No. So see the way Ken Klippenstein twisted that? He's trying to make it seem like David Grush is an active alcoholic, when clearly that's not the case, because when you look into this, you find out David Grush had problems with alcohol, got help, and moved on with his life. And when you hear about why he started drinking, it becomes even more clear. He served in our military overseas, and he had PTSD, had some issues. He knew people that lost their life, and that affected him. He began to drink. See the pattern there? That happens to a lot of our vets. And this is how we're going to treat them. This is how we're going to talk about them. Ken Klippenstein never, in the article or in this interview, ever sort of acknowledges that context about David Grush. It makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest with you. It seemed very disingenuous, an attack on David Grush, and now clearly that's affected him enough to want to sue.
But here's the kicker. This time around, we may have proof that Klippenstein was paid off with a large sum of money after the fact. Coincidence or a straight-up hit job on one of the most credible UFO whistleblowers in history? A tweet from Adam Goldsack says, Klippenstein was being paid off. Who would have thought it? You remember him, the Intercept journalist who acted in the interest of the IC and went after whistleblower David Grush after being tipped off about his medical records? And to toss some shade in the mix on X, Carlos Dangerous says, I will not be surprised to see other names soon. Names like Mick West and Sub-Average Chris. So thank you, DOGE, which stands for the Department of Government Efficiency, the office that Elon Musk is heading up and in charge of, and they are going after, they're following the money. They're following the waste in government, and they've already uncovered this. So this is
super interesting.
Yeah.
And by the way, I forgot to mention this before we moved on a little piece after that last clip, but shout out to us like a year ago, and shout out to Patrick a year ago from when we covered that story way back then. I just like to always give credit to the people whose content we show within hours. So shout out to that. But yeah, so this is an interesting thing. I mean, if this is true, somebody paid Ken Klippenstein over $208,000 $208,000 to get David Grush's stuff out there in an effort to discredit him.
Yeah.
A man who fought for the country, a man who is fighting for UFO transparency, and who put everything on the line to bring this story and information to us. They're going to pay this fucking goofball $200,000 to try to
smear his name and to make him
and run him through the dirt and make him non-credible. Right. Like whoever did that, and then F Ken Klippenstein for following through with it. You're both douchebags.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just figured we would mention this. We don't know if it's true or not, of course. I mean, there's no way for me to like verify 100% that that's actually what happened. But when you follow the money and you put 2 and 2 together, it makes sense that that's what happened.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Why do whistleblowers like Grush always seem to get hit with personal attacks right after they go public? Do you think the same thing is happening to Jake Barber right now? Yes.
Yep. Unfortunately.
What do you think the goal was here? Just to discredit Grush or to scare off future whistleblowers? Probably to scare them off.
I think
if
so
I
too.
had to guess.
Yep.
You know?
Try to keep other people from coming forward.
Which obviously it didn't work with Jake Barber. So.
Right. Shout out Jake Barber.
Yeah. If this is all just a coincidence, why does the money trail tell a different story?
That part.
Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And yes, we do try to read all the comments.
Oh, I do. I reply to everybody if I
everybody.
can.
So, so drop a comment. Get a reply. Yeah. Next on the docket, Marco Rubio and the UFO Vault. What's next for the UAP data collection? All right, folks. Big moves happening in DC. If we didn't know already that big moves were happening.
More big moves are
More
happening.
big moves are happening. Marco Rubio has just been named acting director of the U.S. Archives. Wow. That's huge. And let's just say this could be a game changer for what we know about UFOs, declassification, and government transparency.
A tweet from Christopher Sharp says, on this, K. Wright Research from New Paradigm Institute tells me, quote, Rubio in charge of the National Archives is potentially enormous in consequences. The archives oversee the National Declassification Center. The archives are now also responsible for building the UAP data collection. You might recall last year, the archives extended until September 2025 the deadline for agencies and departments to turn over UAP records. The archives will, and likely does, have a lot of UAP data already. The archives also have important collections like the JFK Assassination Records Collection and others. Continuing on in another tweet, he says, despite being gutted in 2023, the version of the UAP Disclosure Act which passed still requires the National Archives and Records Administration to create a database of all UFO records across government. So yes, I do remember when they were supposed to drop them records, and I do remember when they said that they extended it out to September of this year. And no, I was not happy about it then, and I'm still not happy about it now. However, I find this to be a very cool coinky-dink that Marco Rubio is getting put in charge of this, and then we got Anna Paulina Luna talking about that oversight thing. And they're all talking about transparency, and we're all talking about releasing the JFK, MLK, and RFK files. Woo!
This could
huge. This could be huge.
Right.
This could be huge.
To me, it seems like everything is lining
up, right? I know.
Everything is lining up to disclose. We have,
so excited.
we have Marco Rubio, who is definitely interested in UAP, who had hearings and has had whistleblowers come to him personally. We have the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, who has publicly discussed UAP and says that there are things in the sky that are flying around that we don't know what they are. Right. Now we have this new transparency subcommittee task force coming from Anna Paulina Luna. And we have Donald Trump himself, who's now the president, who has publicly said that there are pilots that told him about UAP passing up their F-22. I mean, going 4 times faster than my F-22, I think is what the pilot said.
Okay.
I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. It's awesome. It's amazing. I can't wait.
I know. I'm very excited for Anna Paulina Luna to be doing what she's doing, and now for Marco Rubio to be put in this position.
Yeah.
And JFK, I'm sorry, not JFK. Trump already signed to release the JFK, MLK, and RFK files. So it's like all these things are lining up. It's like for once, again, knock on that wood stool over there for me, please. It seems like the dominoes are actually lining up in our favor. For once, right? Like, I don't want to say it too loud, but like, I feel like things are lining up in a proper progression. Like, I'm very excited for all this. You know, it feels like people are fighting for transparency rather than fighting to keep this stuff a secret. Now, I'm sure there are the elite still fighting to keep the secret, of course. However, there's a large public momentum that's going on around all of this. And I feel like this is bigger than us. Like, I feel like this is for the woo people out there, but I feel like this is like a collective thing that, like, you know, like the Earth in general is going through an ascension process, and all of these things are just, again, like last week we talked about that sometimes this is like just the tip of the iceberg and there's a whole chunk of ice that we have left to unpack. Well, I feel like this is going to help unpack. This is going to take the locks off, blow the dust off, and let's start looking at these files and all these things.
So what you just said is making me think of what Dr. Stephen Greer has always said.
What's that?
And that is when 1% of the population...
when we reach critical mass. Yep.
That will be the tipping point.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I think we're getting close.
I think it's like...
I think we're getting really close.
We're like the leaning tower of disclosure right now, guys. We're doing a little lean.
Right.
All right. So now that Rubio has direct access to the U.S. government's biggest vault of secrets, including the UFO files, what do you think that's going to mean for us? Does this mean more declassification? Could we finally see the long buried documents come to light? Or is this just another case of keeping the lid on disclosure? Make sure to join the Lato Files Discord server and let the community know what you think. An invite link can be found in the video description box below, along with links to all of the other sources that are going to be featured in the show in the order that they appear. So please make sure to check that out.
And coming up next, Outer Space Meets Inner Space, the Psionics Virtual Summit. All right, for years we've talked about UFO disclosure in terms of government secrecy, military encounters, and hidden programs. But now, a whole new piece of the puzzle is coming into focus. One that has everything to do with human consciousness.
I love it.
What if contact with non-human intelligence isn't just about technology, but also about the mind? A major summit is coming up, and it's tackling some of the biggest questions in the UAP conversation. A tweet from Grant Levesque says, Psionics Virtual Summit, Outer Space Meets Inner Space, exploring the Psi, Plasma Orb, NHI connection. Speakers, Jake Barber, Ross Kohart, Bertie Jaworski, Chris Bledsoe, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jim Garrison, Bob Greenier, Dr. David Clements, George Bach. And the date is February 23rd of 2025. And is free to register.
And in case you're curious like I was, here is a overview of what the summit is going to be about. With the recent whistleblower revelations of psionic teams using remote viewing and UAP retrieval, summoning UAP and communicating with ETs, along with the evidence of mental telepathy being common among autistic children as seen in the telepathy tapes, the reality of extrasensory perception has reached the mainstream tipping point. We just talked about tipping point. Synchronicity. Right at the moment when UAP disclosure is gaining momentum as never before. As Jake Barber has put it, quote, outer space meets inner space, end quote. The question of consciousness is now front and center in understanding both UAP and how humanity can communicate and interact with NHI. We are not alone and never have been. The NHI presence on Earth is real, and they communicate through mental telepathy. This necessitates us understanding that our connection to the universal field of consciousness and information is the human condition and is what links us to the NHI and all other sentient beings. Yes. The practice of psionics for the purpose of NHI contact raises spiritual, scientific, and political questions. While remote viewing is an established military technology and CE5 is a known practice for ET contact, new systematic training methods like transdimensional mapping that awaken our dormant ESP abilities are transforming disclosure from ending political secrecy to directly facilitating repeatable, peaceful ET contact without intermediaries. In this summit, we will attempt to shed light on the diverse perspectives on psionics. We'll hear about the history of psychic contact in ufology, how the abduction phenomena influenced this conversation. We'll hear from those with a track record of physically summoning NHI entities such as orbs. We'll hear emerging scientific theories on how human beings are able to access psi abilities involving new understandings of the ether and living energy and consciousness. Join us as we unite experiencers, remote viewers, and leading scientists to explore this phenomenon and its profound implications for the future of our species. I don't think it should be a surprise to say I'm already registered. As soon as I saw that, I said, register. Allie, let me get in. I am so excited for that. I mean, this is like the epitome of everything that I love talking about and making contact about and bringing light to. Like this I am here for all of this, period.
Right. And this is just another thing that shows that consciousness is key, in my opinion.
Yep.
I really think that. I really think that consciousness is the base to which all of reality is built on.
And again, this is like another one of those examples that we just talked about in the last story, where all these things are coming to like a culmination. It's like you got the telepathy tapes that just came out. You got Jake Barber talking about Skywatcher team and his, culling in the orbs. Greer's been harping on CE5 for like ever. And, I just feel like all of these things, like we're kind of hanging out in the shadows alone, but now they're coming together in the light. And this conversation is beautiful because it has so much potential to transform the whole human species. Like, how much bigger of a fucking thing can we have going on right now? Like, holy crap. Man,
it's amazing. I'm here for it.
Same.
Definitely.
And that is, like we said earlier, that is a free event on Zoom. All you got to do is stick your name and an email address in there and you could show up. There will be us and a bunch of other people that we hang out with in all of these UFO spaces, like either on our server, on the Lato Files Discord server, Embedded server, Night Shift server, Psychoactivo server, all of these places. All these people are interested in this. So if you want to hang out with us on that day, at that time, hit the link, click register, and be there. Be there or be square. How about that?
Yeah.
Right.
What she said. Have you or someone you know experienced moments of heightened intuition, ESP, or telepathic communication? How do you feel about the idea that our consciousness is connected to a universal field that links all sentient beings? If you would like to sign up now and be in attendance of this event, make sure to check out the video description box below for full details and the registration link.
And last but not least, The Consciousness Connection, the game-changing documentary you need to see. All right, UAPs, get ready for a mind-expanding deep dive into one of the biggest questions in the UAP conversation. I feel like I'm getting deja vu.
Yeah.
What if the key to understanding UFOs is consciousness itself? I feel like we just had this conversation, didn't we? Okay, here's another tidbit. Gaia TV is about to drop a brand new documentary called The Consciousness Connection. And trust us, this one is a must-watch, featuring some of the biggest names in the field, including Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford University, Dr. Diane Powell from the telepathy tapes, Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove from New Thinking Aloud, and Joe McMoneagle, the legendary remote viewer, and many others. This film dives into the cutting-edge research behind telepathy, remote viewing, and the real connection between human consciousness and non-human intelligence. This is disclosure like you've never seen before.
A tweet from Dave Beatty says, "So excited to announce the release of our feature documentary, The Consciousness Connection Foundations, on Gaia.com this week. 4 years in the making, the dozens of PhD, MDs, academics, and parapsychologists, it explores the question of what is consciousness. Through past and present research on paranormal activity, this documentary reveals revolutionary theories that question the very nature of consciousness. If these discoveries hold true, they may forever alter our understanding of reality, time, and human potential." Continued in another tweet, "The new trailer for our documentary features some familiar faces. We take an objective look at the mystery of consciousness and awareness. Is there a need for a new science that merges materialism and parapsychology and spiritualism?" Before we say more, let's roll the trailer.
What is consciousness? A quantum field? A structure in the brain? A multi-dimensional projection? The very essence of awareness that gives rise to life.
It's a mystery because we don't know what we're trying to explain.
There's people that fall into consciousness and material.
Consciousness has so many different meanings.
The model that
neuroscientists, neurologists, and psychiatrists operate out of is one that has the assumption that consciousness is something that arises from the brain, even though we don't really understand how that would be the case. And what happened with me was that it never made sense.
But if you study consciousness itself, and you study conscious experiences like near-death experiences, shared death experiences, remote viewing, telepathy, precognition, people who are able to manipulate matter at a distance, psychokinesis, people who are energy healers, power of prayer, all these big manifestations of consciousness kind of in a non-local form, you realize you need a bigger model.
Consciousness is a hybrid, it's technology.
How does it connect us with our world, our universe, and life beyond?
Because consciousness interacts with our physical environment, reality. That is the missing link.
What if consciousness is a force to Earth just like gravity?
Is there a link between consciousness, extrasensory perception, and other anomalous events?
It could be a near-death experience.
Up above are these swooping orbs of angelic choirs leaving sparkling golden trails against this blue-black velvety sky.
So that was about 38, 40 minutes that I had no heartbeat. I didn't want to be here anymore. I wanted to be there because it's so comfortable and so warm and so compassionate and so forgiving and everything.
People have out-of-body experiences from meditation to psychoactive drugs.
Bob Monroe had lots of really interesting out-of-body experiences, adventures and whatnot. He got to the point where he could control it quite well. And he wanted to see if other people could experience this. He wanted other people to be able to learn how to do this and experience it for themselves.
When you look at extraterrestrial experiencers or people that have had these peak experiences.
My daughter and I walked out of a movie theater at night. My daughter pointed up in the sky and she said, "What's that?" And it was just sitting there. It was a boomerang-shaped craft the size of a football field, a large orb telescoped open. It moved around like it was searching for something. Once you experience it, you can't go back. You suddenly, you know that reality.
I really hope that Gaia TV doesn't copyright that video. So if you guys didn't just see a trailer for the Consciousness Connection movie, it's because YouTube made us take it out. However, the link is in the video description box below. Please go check it out. There were so many important things said in that video. I don't even know where to start. All I know is that between this, the Age of Disclosure, and the Psi Summit coming up, my brain is like buzzing. I'm like so excited because all of my favorite things and theories are coming together. It's like telepathy, psychics, mediums, channelers, ETs, animal communication, like the paranormal, like all of this stuff, spirituality is all getting validated and confirmed. And my murder board brain loves when the strings are made, the connections are made, and it's like I just see like all these
that looks like it's going to be a very interesting documentary.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah,
and
I know we say that a lot, but like it's true though.
It is true. Right. It's definitely true.
Yes.
There are many great documentaries that are going to be coming out soon. This is another one of those.
Yeah, I just love that this is bringing validity to consciousness. It's bringing validity to telepathy. It's bringing validity to remote viewing. If you've never watched Joe McMoneagle on the Sean Ryan Show, it is a 6-hour long conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, I watched all 6 hours because it was that interesting. I mean, this man worked and did all kinds of things. He's like probably one of the best remote viewers on the planet, at least that I am aware of. And here he is talking about how the connection of consciousness is the key to this whole thing. I mean, I'm making so many connections in my murder board brain. I cannot literally physically even like express them all. They go by so quickly. It's just like I can't catch on to all of them to express them fast enough. Oh, and since they talked about at the end of that trailer how we're still fighting against UFO stigma, here's a really fun tweet from Beatrice Villarroel from the Soul Foundation, who says, we shouldn't fear the UFO stigma, we should party with it. Yes, girl, I am here for that too. She looks so good in that
Doesn't she look so pretty?
She looks amazing. She looks so fire. Yes, absolutely. So yes, let's not mess with the UFO stigma unless we're going to sit here and party with it and make it go away, because the more we talk about these things, the more conversations we have, the more shows like this we make, the more shows like this you watch and share with all your friends, the more this conversation and ripple effect will be spread out, and the further it'll go, and the more people that will awaken, like he was talking about earlier with the critical mass. Guys, we can do this. We can freaking do this in our lifetime. Oh my God, this is such an exciting time to be on Earth right now. We chose a cool time to incarnate here.
We did. Woo! We did. All right. Do you think telepathy and remote viewing are the missing pieces in UFO disclosure? If consciousness is truly the key to understanding UFOs and everything else, which I think it is, what does that mean for the future of human evolution? Which experts are you most excited to hear from in the consciousness connection? Let us know in the comment section below.
And that concludes this week's UAP Society's UAP News Show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. And while you're here, please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. Let's raise the collective consciousness together in unity.
All right.
Much love, peace, and namaste.